Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Almost Philadelphia. I'm Chef Char Nolan, one of the team instructors at Rouxbe Online Cooking School. Welcome. Today is February the 18th, and I'm happy to see everyone who's here and have lots to go over, some wonderful questions, and I think that we'll have a very good time today. I see at the bottom of the scroll of questions that let me see that Annette has asked a question about the caraway pans. And oh, wrong question. I'm going to start from the top because I'm sitting here with my gigantic caraway pan. Take a look at it now. I'm going to bring it up later. First thing I want to talk about are mushrooms, because as you know, the no oil saute mushroom assignment is sort of a cornerstone in terms of learning how to cook without using oil. And it's really a fun activity and it goes very quickly. And it's where the necessity of a good mise en place is sort of put into action. And it's really fun for me because when I read assignments, oftentimes students will say, oh my gosh, now I understand why you have to have everything ready in your mise en place. But I want to go back to even before that and maybe shopping at the grocery store, trying to find the best mushrooms for your assignment. So I went to the grocery store this morning, and these are pre-sliced white mushrooms that are packed in a plastic container that has no holes in it, and it has plastic wrap on it. And if you look at the mushrooms, they are getting dry. They are dark in color. And when I see mushrooms, when I see mushrooms like this in the beginning of an assignment, I know that the end product is going to be almost black because they're drying out. They have little oxygen in them and they are suffocating to death in this little container. Whereas if you go to your produce department and you buy them loose like this, you're going to see a big difference in the mushroom that you use. Now, when you get home from the grocery store after buying fresh mushrooms, you're going to put them in a brown paper bag and store them in the back of your refrigerator because they can breathe through the paper bag and they will retain their moisture and their beautiful, beautiful color. So what I want to do really quickly is I'm just going to make a very quick slice. And this is what a mushroom looks like when it's cut in the minute. It's beautiful, it's white, it's pristine, it almost feels juicy. Whereas, and these mushrooms that I'm going to show you now, the pre-cut ones, are done mechanically. So here's the difference. So I have this and I have this. So this is how easy it is to tell when you use a pre-cut mushroom versus one that you have bought fresh out of a bin. And the ones that are in the bin, you don't need a lot of them. You can always say, if you're doing an assignment, I divided this mushroom in half. I mean, the mushroom portion in half because it's just me, or I'm only cooking for two and I didn't want to have the excess. However, for those of you who have done this assignment, you will all agree that you should always double the recipe, because I see things like, when the recipe was finished, my son ate half of them and there weren't enough for me to plate, so I had to go out and buy more mushrooms. And I love hearing things like that. So just keep in mind that fresh mushrooms or fresh produce makes really fresh, delicious tasting food. And I will also say that the difference in flavor between the pre-sliced and the one that you slice yourself is quite remarkable. Also remember that you want to continue to hone your knife skills. So slicing your own mushrooms is probably, as I see it, the best way to go. So we've got that out of the way. That's one fun thing that I wanted to talk about today. And the other one is, oftentimes I hear students say in their wonderful summaries, I didn't have fresh lemons, or I don't have a lemon juice squeezer, or whatever. So I used bottled lemon juice. And if there were a camera in my office while I'm reviewing assignments, you would hear me say, no, do not use bottled lemon juice. So here's what I'm going to say. Here are a pair of tongs, a pair of tongs that if you were catering an event or something and you didn't want people putting their hands in. So here are a pair of tongs, and I have sliced in half a beautiful fresh lime. And what you're going to do is you're going to open this up, and I have a cup here, but that you can't see, but I'm just going to show you that this becomes a very, very good lemon squeezer, lime juice squeezer, whatever. Everything comes out. And it's no cost to you because I think we all have a couple of pair of tongs. So just be mindful that fresh really enhances the flavor. And also remember that most of the bottled lemon or lime juices have preservatives in them, and they will greatly change the flavor of what it is that you are trying to make. So with that said, we're going to get going with some wonderful questions. And if you have any specific questions that apply to an assignment that you may have done or that you're looking forward to, or have a question about the affordability of food and having an impact in your pocket and the best way to shop. And I can probably give you several examples. I often teach a class in person called Shopping on a Shoestring, and people are always amazed when they have that aha moment of, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? So our first question is from Diane K., who had a really good question about after she soaks her garbanzo beans and then she boils them, she was concerned about the foam that collects on the inside of the pan, and was it safe to eat? And if you watched Chef Fran's live event last week when she talked about aquafaba, that is the beginning of aquafaba, and the only thing that is in that water is protein and carbohydrates. After you drain the beans, you can use aquafaba that from fresh beans. And as Chef Fran had mentioned last week, you might want to cook it down a little bit. I do use aquafaba from fresh garbanzo beans. There's a little bit a difference in texture, so I cook it down until it resembles what you see in can. But yes, Diane, you could eat them. They'll add flavor. It's just protein and carbohydrates. So that's a great question. Appreciate that. The next question is from Annette. Good afternoon, Annette. So Annette has a question about garlic. So many of you may know that Gilroy, California is the United States garlic capital of the world, where they have a big garlic festival every year and make everything from roasted garlic to garlic ice cream and beyond. So just like you're going to look for loose mushrooms when you're in the produce department of your grocery store, getting your garlic out of a bin and being able to select one that you like the best is probably a more effective way to shop for garlic than buying it in that little cute box where three little heads of garlic are smushed together, or that little mesh plastic bag. We don't need more plastic in our life. So picking them out for yourself is a good way to go. My own personal choice is to use American-grown organic garlic. There are many articles written about how garlic is grown in some other countries. So I use organic. They're not bleached. Some countries bleach them because they think that Americans like to see things that are pristine and white. You want to have most of the garlic paper, as it's called, most of it intact. That's the first thing. You could smell it. You don't want to smell, because sometimes a smell can indicate that the garlic might not be so fresh. You also don't want to see anything growing out of the top of it, because that also indicates that the garlic is old and you want the freshest garlic that you can get. So what I'm going to do is, with my brute force strength here, is you can see what they look like on the inside. And I'm just going to pick one out. There we go. So this one, Annette, is a really nice sized clove of garlic. And I do have that little roly thing that I like to use to help me get the hair off. Sometimes I don't worry about it. If I'm going to eat garlic paper, it's not going to, do anything to me. And you can either use a garlic press. Remember that mincing is an important cut to learn, and many times in recipes, in Rouxbe, you will see where they're asking you to mince the garlic. So I say continue to hone your knifing skills and do that. But this to me has a lovely, lovely aroma. You're looking for an aroma, not a smell. So that's it. Buy it in bulk, buy it loose. It shouldn't have a smell. Remember the difference between smell and aroma. Aroma has a deliciousness to it. When we think of something that smells, we think of something that doesn't smell very, very good. And I go through about 2 of these a week because I use them in so many things just because I love the flavor of fresh garlic. So those are my recommendations. And this is a beautiful, beautiful bulb of garlic. And I'm happy with that. And it'll be gone in no time. So great question. So thank you so much. Oh, and one last thing. Sometimes I see where students have purchased that tantalizing little jar of minced garlic that has salt in it and preservatives. So again, those two, excuse me, those 2 ingredients are going to alter the flavor of your dish. So if you're doing the no oil saute mushroom dish, you want the freshest garlic that you can have, and you're going to see such a delicious flavor at the end that it's going to become your go-to dish for crostini, for pasta sauces, and a bunch of other things. So that was another excellent question in it. Thank you so much. So this is a question from Nadia Q, and I always love this question because I think that this could probably be its own Rouxbe Live event. And that is, how do you turn your passion into a business? So when I was a student at Rouxbe 10 years ago, I had sort of like an idea of what I wanted to do. And what I loved about my time at Rouxbe is the structure of the program sort of helped me to develop a direction of where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. I loved to cook. I still love to cook. And having been a teacher, I also love to teach. So how would I combine those two? So the first thing that you have to think about with that passion, and passion is always good because it's a really good motivator, but it's important to think of things like this. When I start this business, where will I cook? Will I go to a shared kitchen where I might have to pay X amount of dollars a month? Will I go to my local church and ask them if I can rent their kitchen for 4 hours once a week? Will I have insurance? Because you need, as a chef, you need to have insurance. And you also have to have your Serve Safe certification as a manager so that you understand all of the elements of cooking and prepping, food storing, et cetera, et cetera. So I say this. I didn't want to sound like Debbie Downer, by the way, with that first thing. When I finished Rouxbe, I had my eye on a vegan restaurant not far from where I live, and I knocked on the door of the owner, and I said, "My name is Char Nolan. I just finished this class. I love what you do. How can I work with you? I want to learn the ins and outs of working the back of the house." And we struck up a wonderful friendship and ended up doing pop-up dinners together. So pop-up dinners are a wonderful way to sort of get your feet wet and to see if this is something that you want to do. I have some friends from Rouxbe who make muffins and sell muffins at farmers markets, and they wholesale them to grocery stores and things like that. So finding your niche is the most important thing. And, you know, they always say that that road to success is like full of squirrely marks. It's not just a straight trajectory. And I do believe that is true. And one day I was minding my own business and someone called me and said, "We're from the library. We're looking for somebody with your background, a teacher and somebody who's a chef. And oh, you need to have your safe serve and insurance." And I was like, "Oh, that's totally me to the T." So 8 years later, I still get to do wonderful things in the community, doing all kinds of interesting things where I teach specifically whole food, plant-based, no oil to a population who might have several comorbidities and challenges with their own health. So for them to see how they're able to lower their blood pressure or lower their A1C or whatever, those kinds of things come into play as a chef instructor. And I also, in the beginning, would do personal chefing. And I personally didn't love it. It just wasn't kind of my thing. Sometimes people will call and say, my Aunt Rose is sick. Can you make her food for a week? And I always say yes, because I figure, let's make Aunt Rose feel better with delicious, delicious food, because food is medicine. So, Nadia, if you ever have any questions specifically, please feel free to email me at char@rouxbe.com, and I would be happy to send you some books that sort of give you some other tools to think about. And I also want to say, at the risk of sounding corny, that one should never, ever, ever use age as a detour to wanting to achieve what is in your heart. So if this is something that you love, I just say keep on going and keep in touch with me. I want to hear what you're up to. Thank you so much for that great question, and sorry for the long answer. Okay. This is from, I believe, Afke, and I hope I have pronounced your name correctly. She wanted to know my favorite way to inspire people to eat more plant-based food. Well, first of all, there's Meatless Monday, and Meatless Monday has everything in the world that you would ever need for introducing a plant-based way of life. I don't like to use the word diet, but a plant-based life or way of life. And I say that if you have one really good savory dish, perhaps one of my favorites is Raise the Roof Lasagna by Rip Esselstyn, or our vegetable tagine is always a crowd pleaser because it's got a side of rice or quinoa, and it's got artichoke hearts and beautiful raisins and lots of delicious vegetables. And don't use the word vegan or plant-based when you're arriving to a potluck. And then the next one is a fabulous dessert, because everyone loves a dessert. And there are so many easy ways nowadays to convert a conventional recipe into being a delicious and wonderful plant-based dessert that looks delicious and tastes delicious. And if I were to give you an example, I make black bean brownies, and they're loaded with walnuts, and I have my little tricks, and they look delicious and they taste delicious. And I might serve them with a little scoop of a nice cream that I make with frozen bananas. So a good savory dish, a great dessert, you'll be the hit of the party. And then from that, gradually introduce other things that people might enjoy. You'll become known for, oh, here comes Afke with her famous vegetable tagine. I love it so much. When somebody asks you for the recipe, you know that you have made a mark. And I think I've often discussed this on other live events, that there are two kinds of people. There are people who jump into the deep end of the plant-based pool, and I'll raise my hand for that. And then there are some who hold onto the railing and slowly step down, but they get into the pool and start to enjoy some of the many benefits of following a plant-based way of life. And that includes not just feeling better, but seeing a decline in your grocery bills, because buying a pound of brown rice or a pound of beans or whatever you're going to use, or seeing that great sale at the grocery store where they sell 4 cans of no salt added garbanzo beans for $5. So you can certainly make meals and desserts and soups and other things out of that. So I say define your dishes and then just forge ahead and do what you love to do. That was a great question. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This next question is from Mishka. Mishka, it's nice to see you. I always enjoy going over your assignments. They're always lots of fun. You're certainly creative. In terms of a blender versus a food processor. So I will tell you that somewhere back there, you're going to see my 12 cup fancy schmancy food processor that I might use 2 times a year. And I use it to chop to cut to grate cheese, vegan cheese if I'm using that. But what I love the best is this teeny weeny KitchenAid that can chop and puree and do everything. I think that it is a quart big. It's fabulous. I love it. It comes in handy lots of times, and it also comes with a milk frother. I don't know if you can see that or not, but this milk frother will add some froth to your plant milk or whatever it is that you might be using. The Vitamix, and I have a high-speed Vitamix blender that I've had for 7 or 8 years, and that is really good for pureeing. For example, if you're making a sauce or a soup or a smoothie or a malted, you can make malted from plant milk. That's what it does. Which one do I use the most? I'll be very honest. I use the little teeny weeny KitchenAid 4-cup food processor, and I'm absolutely wild about it. It makes wonderful dressings. If I'm making, say, the Rouxbe lemon vinaigrette, I'll throw my ingredients in there, and then after it's processed the first time, then I'll put this in, and it gets a really beautiful consistency to it. So that's primarily the difference. The other one about the Vitamix is if you have the grains container, I do make my own flours with it, and it makes a beautiful flour. And even after you strain it, there's very little residual left in a small mesh strainer. So I think it depends what you want to use it for. I love having a Vitamix. Sometime I'll tell you the story of how I purchased it and where I purchased it, but I will tell you, if you go to Vitamix.com, they do have a pre-used program, and some of their machines that have been previously used or pre-owned are very reasonable in price, and they also come with a smaller guarantee, but they will still work. So that's totally up to you. I would not spend $19.99 on a blender at a big box store because it really won't do anything right. The other benefit of the Vitamix is that it makes really good chipped ice. So if you like to add chipped ice to your cold drinks or whatever, that works really well too. So I hope that, Mishka, that has helped you. So another very good question. This is from Maria A., who has a question about making gluten-free breads and also some gluten-free breads that might be available on the market. So we're going to start with one thing. They're very expensive. The other day I saw a German gluten-free bread that had 4 slices of bread in it, and it was $6.99. So cost is I think an important element. Next to that, oftentimes you'll see that some of the ingredients might not be plant-based. For example, I've seen eggs used in many brands of gluten-free breads. So I'm going to give you my recommendations because several months ago I decided that I wanted to start eating less processed flours and less gluten. So my go-to is these are gluten-free English muffins from Food for Life. And these they're made with organic brown rice. And this is the multi-seed. I like it because it has in it flaxseed, chia seeds, sunflower seeds. So you're getting a little extra fiber. I will use one. I will put it in the air fryer for about 3 or 4 minutes and then slice it, and it's nice and moist on the inside, and it makes perfect for a burger, for eating a plant-based burger. So I will tell you that these on sale where I live in Philadelphia are $8.99, but the ingredients are good, and there's nothing inappropriate or what's the word I want to use? They're clean. I don't like to use the word clean for food, but these I like. Now, the other thing is, and you'll see a recipe for made from scratch Alaska, and there is a bread recipe that the woman uses that I have been making for years and years and years. And you make the dough, you let it sit for 18 hours, you put it into a Dutch oven at 450 degrees, and 45 minutes later, you have the most beautiful loaf of bread you've ever seen. So the recipe is for that, but that recipe is for traditional flour. So these are my recommendations. You can use a gluten-free 1-to-1 flour, and surprisingly, this bread comes out absolutely delicious. If you wanted to mix the flours so that you had a little bit, pardon me, a little bit more fiber or whatever, you could use a gluten-free flour, and this one happens to be millet, which I love to bake with. So you could do 2 cups of this and 1 cup of this, and for a fraction of the cost, it comes out like a beautiful loaf of a bakery bread that you would spend a lot of money for. The one thing I also want to say about gluten-free, Maria, is that sometimes it's truly science in the kitchen, and it's where you're going to keep notes when you make that first loaf for yourself to see if, in fact, it's working out, or maybe you should have put less salt in it. And it is an oil-free recipe, which I think many of us would appreciate. So the other thing is I happen to enjoy this, and this is a treat. This is the Plant Strong pancake mix from Rip Esselstyn, and it's sweetened with dates. It has no refined sugar. It's oil-free, and it makes a beautiful, beautiful pancake that tastes absolutely delicious. And I know the next question is going to be, well, how do you make pancakes without oil? And this is where using my caraway pan comes in handy, because nothing sticks to this pan whatsoever. So this is, I think, the 8-quart pan. And I like this because the top of it is also metal, makes me feel like a gladiator. And you can put this whole thing right inside the oven, and it works well and does a beautiful, beautiful job, but makes really good pancakes. So experiment, go to the grocery store, look around, and just have fun using gluten-free flours. So that's my my little spiel about that. Anyway, I hope that's helpful to you. This is from Ellen K. She found that she made some roasted carrots, and when she was finished, she found that they tasted better the next day, that they were more savory. It might, we eat hot foods differently than we eat cold foods. When we eat hot food, we take smaller amounts because we don't want to, scald our palates or anything like that. The other thing is that sometimes flavors may be enhanced when food is cold, but generally speaking, food tastes better when it is eaten, freshly made out of the oven or whatever like that. So I think if you enjoy that salad, well, I'm calling it a salad now because it's cold, but your carrots and beans, then make that one of your go-to dishes where everyone will rave and applaud your wonderful ability to make such beautiful plant-based dishes. So, but it is okay to serve that way. Yes, I would maybe put it on a bed of some greens and add a beautiful garnish. And I'm sure that it would taste better. If you're making that seed mixture, you might want to have that in a small bowl with a little spoon so people could garnish it themselves, maybe add a little bit more. Great question, Ellen. Thank you so much. This next question is from Diane D., who is asking a question about soaking nuts. And, this is one of those discussions that could go on and on and on. So I'll tell you what I do. If I am baking something that requires soaked nuts, I will put them in a bowl, and I will cover them to the top with a lukewarm or even warmer than luke. And then I will cover it and put it in the refrigerator overnight. And then the next day I will use them in a recipe. If I'm not going to get to it, I will change the water daily, because I think that's another important thing to do. Some people say that when you soak nuts, especially if you're going to take we'll use this, a raw walnut and you're going to soak it and then you're going to roast it, it's easier to digest. So I have never had that problem, but that is what many people claim. So I have given you an article about soaking nuts from Radiant Life, and the article is actually very good, and I enjoyed reading it. So maybe that is something you'll also enjoy as well. And this is from Melissa B. Good afternoon, Melissa. So this is my caraway pan, and I'm going to tell you, I've never weighed it before, but I think after today's live event, it might be something that I will do. I have a special sponge that I clean it with. I think you need to go through the catalog and see what would work best for you, what your priority would be. Maybe start out with something small. Sometimes when you click onto their website, that little 10% coupon pops up, and you might want to take advantage of that. And I would also look around at different stores. I also received these for Christmas. I haven't used them yet. Such a pretty color. These are the caraway. I have 2 baking sheets. The other one has handles on either end. But this would be a good pan to use for roasting vegetables, and you can make that beautiful array. There is no need for parchment paper or a silpat. However, if you would want to feel more secure, here is a silpat. And I will tell you that I purchased this at Aldi. Aldi always has these, and they might be 2 of them for $5.99 or something like that. But my favorite go-to always is unbleached parchment paper. And if I use this, let's say that I'm going to roast some Brussels sprouts. And when I finish roasting those Brussels sprouts, I will take the paper off and put it on a cooling rack and then flip it and use it for the next time. So I know a lot of people that do this. It's a great way to be a better environmental steward. Remember that there are some articles that report that using white bleached parchment paper might have bits of silicone in it. So that's my go-to. I'll let you know how this pan works out. In terms of the caraway, I love this pan. I put it in the oven. I make soup. I do all kinds of things with it. I haven't used any of my other pots and pans for more than a year, to be honest with you. So anyway, good luck. Let me know if you decide to get one. You will thank me forever. And they do have sales. That's the other thing I think I said, but I'll say it again. And okay. Oh, Ellen, I'm so sorry. I skipped over your umami question, which is such a great question. So I think that the easiest way to explain umami is to say that, it was discovered about 120 years ago in Japan. It's another word for savoriness or savory or delicious. So when you look at the other elements of food flavors and you're thinking of sweet, sour, bitter, and salty, people add umami to that. You'll see it on a lot of cooking shows. It's just another word to describe flavor. That's all. It goes much deeper than that, but it's the overall flavor and deliciousness of something that you make. So I can give it to you easiest that way. So I'm so sorry I didn't see that question. Thank you very much. Okay, let me get myself together here. Okay. We did nuts. We did caraway. So Melissa has a question about laminating pasta. And if you look at the Rouxbe recipe for making the manicotti, that is probably the best recipe that I have ever used for making laminated pasta, whether it be to make the manicotti, to make lasagna. And yes, I have used it to make spaghetti as well. And that works very, very well. I will say it's hard to make a laminated pasta. I use a semolina, and then I use unbleached white flour if the recipe calls for it. So there is a thing called unbleached white, and it has a little brown texture to it. And that I remember doing that for my assignment, because I will tell you that when I was a student at Rouxbe, every assignment that I ever did began with no salt or oil was used in this assignment. So I made it through, and still managed to cook that same exact way. So check the Rouxbe recipe for the manicotti. It's the best one that I know, and just switch out the flours. I think that will work. This is from Annette B. What is the best method for removing burnt oil from a stainless steel skillet? She was experimenting with a frying pan, and she has a lot of baked on burn on oil. So this is where I often say when I'm teaching classes that one of the benefits of cooking without oil is that it makes cleanup so much easier. So there are many methods. There's the method of filling a pan up with boiling water, and then adding a dish detergent to it, whichever one you might like to use, and then adding some white vinegar and letting it set overnight, because it will loosen some of the grit of the burnt on oil. That works really, really well. I would recommend to use that. But I would also say that decreasing the amount of oil that you cook with is probably another good thing. But in the process, the vinegar and water, some people also have used dryer sheets. I have tried that. It did not work well. And I think I had to borrow dryer sheets from my neighbor or something like that. I forget what it was. But try the method with the vinegar and water. I think you're going to see some success with that. Very good question. Oh, this next question is from Denise. And Denise, I love this question so much, because being an Italian American, I will never, ever find a substitute for Parmesan Reggiano or Locatelli Romano or whatever. So I think that in terms of making a delicious pesto, you want to have beautiful, fresh basil, and you want to have, I like to use organic walnuts. I don't know too many people these days who use pine nuts, because they're extremely, extremely expensive. They might be about $30 a pound. So walnuts, fresh basil, and this is the time where nutritional yeast really does take its bow in terms of it tastes like cheese. And then if you like salt and pepper, you might do that. But in terms of trying to make a pesto that tastes a lot like what you may have known in your house growing up, or what you've seen in a jar, I would even recommend to stay away from some of the vegan pestos that I have seen, because they are loaded with lots and lots of oil, and they have a very high sodium content as well. So I say that this is where you are going to be the inventor of Denise's vegan pesto. And you'll find the ingredients that work for you. But in terms of it being like something that has lots of olive oil and tons of cheese, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but you will find and make your own that is totally delicious. And I will come to your house and share it with you. So that's a great question. Very, very good question. Okay. How can I husk off garbanzo beans? This is a great question, because if you're making hummus, you will have the smoothest hummus in the world. So I'm going to give you two ways to do it. The one is that you can throw the drained, and you're going to dry them with a towel, and throw them into a brown paper bag, much like this. And you're going to shake, 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 shake. You're going to take them out. You're going to rinse them under some lukewarm water, and then you're going to pick them out, and you will see that the majority of the skin will remain in the strainer, and you will have beautiful, beautiful beans. The other way to do it is to take a towel, much like this one, and cover half of the towel with the beans and then roll it over like a sandwich, sort of like. Let's see if I can get this out. Yes, I can. Here we go. Okay, so the beans are going to be on the inside of this. And then you're just going to have them flat on the countertop, and you're going to just pat them. Just keep patting them for about a good minute to 2 minutes. And when you open it up, you're going to see on the bottom, again, that many, many, many of the skin or peel of the garbanzo beans are not with you. It makes a huge difference when you're making salads. If you're going to add garbanzo beans to your dish, it makes a huge difference when you're making hummus, because you're going to make a beautiful smooth hummus. And some people say that in the past, that if eating beans has been harsh on their digestion, that not having the rough texture of the skin makes it easier to digest the beans. So that is a great idea. Okay. This question is from Judy L. And Judy wants to know, do I have a favorite easy dessert that I like to make? And the answer is, oh dear, what did I do? Here we go. The answer is, and this is Judy Lemko, who I love and adore, and we've known each other for 1,000 years, but forgot that we knew each other, and we met at a grocery store several years ago in South Philadelphia, and Judy is a really good advocate for a plant-based lifestyle, so it's nice having her here today. If you go into the Engine 2 cookbook, there is a recipe called dumpster cobbler. And it's called dumpster cobbler because it's the easiest dessert in the world to make. It's essentially a cake. And after you put it into your baking pan, you cover it with fresh fruit. So I like to use raspberries, strawberries, and blueberries, and then you bake it. And it comes out and has a very aha moment to it. And then I will serve it with some homemade banana nice cream and add a garnish of maybe some fresh mint. And there's no oil, no refined sugar. It's sweetened with maple syrup. And it's a big crowd pleaser. And as I had mentioned earlier, I also like to make black bean brownies, which are another hit. And I don't ever tell people that they're black bean brownies. I just say, I made some brownies, they're egg and dairy free. And that's all they need to know. You can ask someone if they have an allergy. I don't know too many people who are allergic to black beans. I did want to say, just for one last thing, in these gluten-free English muffins, they do contain sesame seeds, which in 2023, sesame seeds were listed as the 9th serious allergen. So keep in mind that if you're making dishes for someone who might have a nut or seed allergy, I would not be using sesame seeds, nor would I recommend that they eat that. Judy, that's my question. We should get together and have a dessert party. So thank you so much for that question. I always enjoy hearing from you. So Diane has another good question. Sometimes she has more lemons than she needs, and she wants to know if she can squeeze them and if she can freeze them into. I would freeze them into ice cube trays or silicone ice cube trays. I will say that if you're going to squeeze a lot of lemons that you have in your fridge, I would first roll them so that you loosen the fiber inside the lime or lemon. And then I would put it in the microwave for about 15 to 20 seconds. And then I would let them cool and slice them. And then I would do my squeezing because you'll get a lot more juice. And then putting them into an ice cube tray would work perfectly. So that is a great idea. Very, very good. So Tony C wants to know how long she can store aquafaba in the refrigerator. before it goes bad? I would say this, that probably putting them into some silicone ice cube trays might be a good thing. However, if you're just going to put it into a little plastic container, you're going to date it, list aquafaba and then the date, and maximum 3 to 5 days. Store it in the back of your fridge. Remember, that's where you have the most constant temperature. I've never had to have that problem before because I'll always use it up in the minute. Last week, Chef Fran talked about the use of aquafaba, and there is a video up on @Rouxbe Plants and @Rouxbe on Instagram where you can tune in to Chef Fran's examples and her expertise about using aquafaba. I think that you might like to read that. This is from Tony C. She's questioning about black garlic. I know that many of the physicians in the plant-based world have things to say about black garlic. I have never used it, so I am going to read up on it tonight when I get to my Rouxbe office, but thank you for that question. This is from Tony C. again. She wants to know about bringing brown paper bags to the grocery store when she is buying vegetables in bulk. I have them tucked away in here, but I have mesh vegetable bags that I take to the grocery store with me, throw my vegetables in, and then when I get home, I take care of cleaning the vegetables and whatever, and then I wash the cloth bags. But I will say that if I know I'm going to buy mushrooms, I always bring a couple of these to the grocery store. And these are really a good bet. If you do buy vegetables and you're going to use a brown paper bag, you might want to put the 4 or 5 digit number on here so that the person who is ringing you up at the grocery store, unless you're ringing yourself up at self-serve, so that they know what's exactly in the bag. So that's a good question. Okay, moving right along. Mishka, the recipes that I mentioned today regarding the bread they're in this queue. So if you look through, you should be able to see it. And you'll also be able to find it in the replay of today's live event. So. Okay, everybody, I feel like I'm going to become a salesperson for this caraway pan, but here's the caraway pan, spelled exactly like the seed, and it has stainless steel handles. It makes it really easy to grab out of the oven. It's a heavy pan, and if you've got it filled with food, and then if the top is on it, pardon the little banging noise. So it's called caraway. And that was a question from Ermela. And I hope that helps you. And oh my goodness, somebody has just, Ty B has just reported that Caraway has a President's Day sale on their pans. So jump at it, jump on it. And I want to hear how beautiful your oil-free mushrooms are, as well as your delicious pancakes. And if anybody follows Rip Esselstyn, he makes pancakes in his Caraway pan, and he makes a pancake that is the entire size of this pan. And then he goes 1, 2, 3, whoop, and he flips it in midair. So if that is a testimony for how well these pans work, I don't know what there is. Thank you very much for telling us that. And Urmila, that the name of the company again is Caraway. And this is from Judy. Judy wants to know when I'm putting my recipes in a cookbook. Well, I have a shoebox and notebooks that are filled with all kinds of, to me, interesting recipes with a little, Char Nolan twist. And as some of you may know, I'm finishing up graduate school aside from being a busy chef instructor at Rouxbe. So maybe when I finish school, which should be at the end of this year, I'll be able to maybe focus on a cookbook. Some of you may know that I spent a week in Italy a little bit more than a year ago at a cooking school. And it was a cooking school located just miles from where my grandparents were from. So I got to see all of the recipes that my grandparents made. And then I have been able to convert them to be whole food, plant-based, no oil or salt, and still totally delicious. So Judy, you'll be the first person I tell you can come to my book signing. Anyway, we went through a lot today, and I want to thank each and every one of you for your questions. And I hope that today's takeaway is fresh mushrooms. Have so much fun with your assignments. Enjoy everything that you do. And I think that's it. So I'm going to sign off from the city of brotherly love and the champions, the Super Bowl champion, Philadelphia Eagles, and sisterly love. I'm Char Nolan. It's been a pleasure. I'll see you soon. Take care.